Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
And hello all, and what is going on? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and I'm here for a late night video for some baseball news. As again, we have been wrapping up the off season. We're in spring training now. The World Baseball Classic is going on. Haven't really had the time though to watch any of that so far. But the man himself, who again is superior to the man, is here though just to give you some last minute, actually a lot of late signings for some players who have, aren't getting as many opportunities as they once were. Some getting like a short 1 or 2 year deal. Most of these guys have minor league deals though that got signed right before the end of the off season. Now, normally, of course, I would go in order of when they happened. This one, though, because there's a lot, there's 16 of them. I'm not going to talk too long about them. I'm going to just, do them by teams. Because some couple teams had some multiple signings that I just wanted to briefly address. But we're going to get to them pretty quickly. Starting off with a major league deal, which is Jesus Aguilar. Signed a 1-year contract with the Oakland Athletics, and he also got a spot on the 40-man roster. So there's no corresponding, there's need for a corresponding move after a trade of lefty Cole Irvin to the Orioles just the day before. And this signing took place back on January 27th. It was one I originally just passed by, but it's still a nice small little sign just to mention. Aguilar, of course, who does have a history of power, first baseman, and he hasn't been as productive recently, but he still has a little bit of gas left in the tank to help. This past season, he was traded to the Reyes. He was with the Marlins, but then he was released by the Marlins in August, and then he would sign with the Orioles for the final month, which some of these I was not able to find up-to-date PNG images. He had finished with a .235 campaign for batting average last year. Again, he does still supply some power, so he could be a right-handed bat for the rebuilding Athletics in there. So that, is a nice little gamble there with a 33-year-old Aguilar. The next two signings are with the Brewers, who again have made some moves this offseason that seem to increase some flexibility in their payroll. And I'm not sure, I don't see them competing for the division, but I do see them maybe competing for a wild card. But maybe the third spot, because I really like what the Cubs have done this offseason, which there was a signing also I wanted to briefly address as well. But for the Brewers, the first one, they added some help to their bullpen in left-handed reliever Justin Wilson, who back on February 18th signed a 1-year deal with a club option for 2024. Of course, though, Justin Wilson did undergo Tommy John surgery last June, but it's not known whether or not if he'll be able to pitch this coming season or not. But the Brewers will retain control over his services, though, when he is healthy. He has, of course, been a member of the Reds organization. He was dealt from the Yankees as part of a deal prior to the 2021 season. He's also a former Pirate, which is how I remember him. He was originally, I think, coming up as a starter, but he got moved to the bullpen. And he's been a solid left-handed reliever for most of it. He posted an ERA of 2.75 over 19 and 2/3 innings with the Reds last year. In 2021. But of course, his elbow problems limited to just only 3 and 2/3 innings in 2022. Between 2013 and 2018, though, he averaged 67 games and 61 innings, and he missed significant time in 2019 due to elbow soreness, and 2021 with a hamstring. He's a career 3.41 ERA over 11 major league seasons, and he has some good splits there as well. So again, he's definitely a nice option for the Brewers bullpen as well. Again, this depends on his health again because of his Tommy John surgery. But he has had a pretty consistent career, I would say. Again, I know he was with the Pirates, and I think he's bounced around a lot since. But he's definitely a solid, not the most lights out, but a very solid left-handed reliever to have in anybody's bullpen. So this is a good grab for the Brewers. And the Brewers also signed my boy, Luke Voit, first base designated hitter, to a minor league deal with a invite to spring training. Of course, I became a fan of Luke Voit after he had nailed 22 home runs in the shortened 2020 campaign. But the past 2 years, though, since then, since he was, like a power surge for the Yankees, have kind of been a little nightmarish. And so what? 2021, he was hampered with injuries. 2022, he started with the Padres, and I'll say he did okay with the Padres. And then he was traded to the Nationals in that Juan Soto deal that originally had Eric Hosmer going to the Nationals. But then when Hosmer rejected it, they instead threw Voit in there instead. And he went to the Nationals, hit 228 and hit about 9 home runs. So he hit about 22 home runs last year. I think he missed maybe just like a week or two at the beginning of the season. He'll hope to get back on track with a more friendly ballpark. Of course, that is if he makes a club. Probably more so of, being a designated hitter because they have Rowdy Tellez at first base, and outfielder Jesse Winger could be in line for some DH opportunity as well. And of course, some rotation in that outfield. So, of course, if Voit would make the big league club, his at-bats would be limited. So, my dream of having like a full excellent season, like he did in 2020, but shortened, but like a full excellent season. I think those days have passed. I'm still like an underrated fan of Luke Voit though, but I'm glad he's got a club. Well, on a minor league deal, of course, if he would make the club out of spring training. Hey, maybe the Pirates could grab. Who knows? Well, then again, the Pirates have like 50 million first basemen in outfield right now, so I'm sure there's really not much room for him. But yeah, again, my hopes of him having like a full season where you can see what he really could do with a full season. Well, I mean, he kind of did this past year, but I know it wasn't as good as it probably could have been if he had the he was on the level he was in 2020. But it's a decent gamble. Like I said, he'll probably be splitting some time, around the first base, maybe outfield, and the DH role as well, if he would make the ball club. But he's not going to have a starting job with the Brewers. But that's the two deals the Brewers have struck. And then the Cubs. Again, the Cubs continue to grab a lot of veterans this past offseason. Back on February 20th, they signed former American League Rookie of the Year Michael Fulmer to a one-year deal, $4 million. Of course, again, he was the 2016 American League Rookie of the Year. Of course, he's had some injuries since. He then more so transitioned to the bullpen, but it was more of a solid late inning guy. And then he was traded to the Twins in the 2022 trade deadline as well. And he was pretty smooth there in the bullpen with a nice 2.90 ERA he posted there as well. He had a little command issues in the first half of the season. However, though, he seemed to bounce back. And I think this is another great pickup for for the Cubs, as again, they continue to add, again, several veterans to their lineup. So I still think the Cubs may outdo the Brewers a little bit this year and get that second place spot. I mean, they still have Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff leading their rotation, but I think that the Cubs, with their veterans, might edge them out a little bit. We'll have to wait and see, though. But this is a nice signing here for the Cubs. Then we move over to the not so busy Dodgers, who just actually also apparently lost Gavin Lux for the season with an ACL injury. I think they did some adjusting the infields, but they did sign one player within the past couple of days, and that is former Diamondback David Peralta, who was traded to the Reyes at the trade deadline, but he signed a one-year deal with the Dodgers. And of course, he signed a one-year deal pending a physical at the time. And it was for $6.5 million, but it could max out to $8 million, depending on some certain incentives. Again, he's a decent hitter. I mean, not the most consistent hitter. He can hit for a decent average. Power is back and forth there as well, but he could be a good addition to the Dodgers lineup as well. Good left-hand spot. Of course, he has to deal with Mookie Betts and Chris Taylor in the outfield and Trace Thompson, as well as also Jason Hayward, who signed a minor league deal with them this past offseason. He's probably going to be battling for a spot as well on the big league roster. So again, some not as busy names getting to the Dodgers. A lot of people saying the rumors are they're saving up for when they go after Shohei Ohtani next offseason, which they could. Or they could go after him for a trade deadline spot if the Angels do not compete. We'll have to wait and see, but Peralta's decent. It's just that Dodgers didn't really make any big splashes this offseason. Not really. Peralta, again, decent, but not like, oh my God, it's David Peralta. Nothing like that. But yeah, they made that move. The Marlins, though, they've been some busy beavers. There's 3 signings on this list here. The first one is former Astro Yuli Gurriel, who signed a minor league deal back on March the 9th, just this past week. And the finances of the deal at the time, though, of course, were not known at the time of the signing. But again, he had settled on a minor league deal for now. Again, he's still, he's he's a Cuban-born player who has had, limited time in the majors for a couple of years because he played mostly over there. But this past year, though, he dipped with only a .242 batting average. He turns 39 in June, so he is up there, and he could be a nice addition to the Marlins, group. As they have a nice mix of veterans and some young upstarts. The Marlins have been busy this offseason. Of course, they had Jorge Soler and Avisel Garcia they got last offseason, but they either were striking out a lot at the plate or they got injured. They have Jazz Chisholm Jr., who had a great breakout year, and he, I believe, is going to be on the cover for MLB The Show 2023. I do have that on my wish list, but I'm not going to be ordering it yet because I do have some wedding stuff to take care of first. But he definitely has a bright future. I'm pretty sure if the Marlins don't compete in the next couple of years, though, Jazz Chisholm is probably going to be getting traded. But they have also some players like Garrett Cooper, Brian De La Cruz, and Jesus Sanchez. And they also had signed in the middle of their infield Gene Segura, and they acquired last year's batting champion, Luis Arez, however you pronounce him, to a deal as well. So again, they have some players, and if Gurriel could get back on track to when he was the Astros' everyday first baseman for quite a while. I mean, I'm not sure if he really will because he's 39 years old. He'll be 39 in June, but he's will be a nice veteran to work with some of these young upcoming players. Same with a guy like Jose Iglesias, getting some depth in that infield, as he's been like a utility infielder, mostly shortstop, a nice utility man, nice little spark plug to add to their bat as they have done. So he has bounced around quite a lot. Again, he signed a minor league deal shortly after they had signed Gurriel as well. But he, of course, will be bouncing around if he makes it to the big leagues also. So that's a nice addition. Again, the Marlins, I would say, don't sleep on them. I think they could compete. I don't see them maybe getting in because the National League East is pretty stacked already with the Mets and the Phillies and the Braves. So maybe like a strong, though, fourth place finish and still showing some signs of some competing. Again, they have a nice mixture of young talent and veterans. And also, for pitching help, they also signed former Pirate Richard Rodriguez as well back on February 28th to a minor league deal. He turned 33 just fairly recently, and he's had a little bit of a roller coaster ride the past few years. He broke out with a 2.47 ERA in 2018. ERA jumped up a little bit the following year, but of course he had an incredible shortened 2020 season with a 2.70 ERA. He still got a 2.82 ERA and was traded to the Braves the following year, and then he was non-tendered before the 2022 deal. He then, though, was suspended, though, for 80 games for a positive test for PEDs, performance-enhancing substance, Boldione. And once that he was served that suspension, he joined the Yankees and eventually posted a 3.96 ERA in 25 minor league innings. So, of course, if he can get back on track and not use roids again, he could, from his experience, he could be a solid addition to the Marlins bullpen as well. So, again, nice little mixture in there. Also, some veterans another veteran going to the very touted Padres, who are just busy and stacking their team. Michael Wacha, the former Cardinal, signed a deal, reportedly 3.5 signing bonuses and a $4 million salary in 2023. After the upcoming season, Padres have to decide whether or not to pick up a successful $16 million options for 2024 and 2025. So it could be a 2-year deal for $32 million if the club picks up his options. Of course, they decline them, though. He'll have a series of player options and whatnot. So he could be around for a while, may not be, but Wacha, who's 31 years old now, has been a solid starting pitcher in his career, former Cardinal and former Red Sox. He had a bounce-back year in 2022 after a tough 2021, turning in 127 1/3 innings with a 3.32 ERA. Again, he does have the experience, of course, with the Cardinals and, of course, and the Red Sox. Of course, the Padres, who do have a lot of pitchers, as some of them, of course, are going to be maybe out the door in a couple of years. So they've definitely padded themselves pretty well for quite a while. And I think adding in Wacha in there is also another, great move as well to stack up there too. I think the Padres, again, are going to maybe compete for a possible World Series contender at some point. Maybe this year, but definitely in the next 10 years, I can see the Padres competing or even winning a World Series. Another random move the Padres did make, I was surprised this guy even existed. Still he plays, as I never really hear much about him except for negative stuff. And that is Rougned Odor, who signed a minor league deal as well. Of course, I don't see Odor getting a starting job with the Padres. He's had a very inconsistent career. He's had a couple good early seasons with the Rangers, but ever since then, it's more so been like utility player who bats 200 when he's not punching out Jose Bautista in the face like he did years ago. Of course, they're already going to be stacked in their infield, of course, as well, with Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, A-Sung Kim, and as well as several other bats in there as well that has a lot of experience with there. So I don't know how much of he's going to contribute. I mean, to me, this might have been a little bit of a waste, to be honest, but you never know what he can contribute to the Padres. But again, they're just stacked for a long time, as they got those guys I mentioned, plus Juan Soto, and of course Fernando Tatis Jr., as he'll be missing a couple games still as he's finishing up his 80-game suspension. But yeah, I don't think Odor's going to be much contribution to the Padres. I don't see it happening. Also, a former utility player for the Pirates, Josh Harrison signed a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Phillies for $2 million. He's 35 years old. Has some decent spark plugness into him. Could add a little bit of depth and a little bit of utility work for the reigning pennant-winning Phillies as well. He could help out for sure. As he's still a solid player for sure. He's going to work with some other things going around. And of course, he can play some time in the outfield as well. Of course, they won't have Bryce Harper at least till mid-season with the bat for the DH spot. But of course, he could complement the left-handed hitting Kyle Schwarber for some left field playing time as well. Since Schwarber, could serve some bats in the DH spot, but Harrison can bounce around in the infield and outfield. So he's a very nice little spark plug to add in there. He's got some gas in the tank left. I always was a big fan of hey. Love me some Josh Harrison. Next, the Rockies signed Mike Moustakas to a minor league deal. He's dealt with some injuries for a couple of years. And, of course, he's going to try to compete for a spot and see, of course, what happens if he makes the big league roster with the Rockies. He was released from the Reds, though, in early January after he was just injured. All the Reds will be responsible for the rest of his salary for the 2023 campaign as per his 4-year, $64 million deal he signed in the 2019 off season. Of course, again, he does have some opportunities as Brendan Rodgers seems likely to miss most or all of 2023 while recovering from a dislocated shoulder. There also rumors of moving Ryan McMahon from third base to second base. So whereas there are some other options, but if Moose can be healthy and stay back on track, there is a chance he could land a job in the Mile High City. You never know, but I don't think the Mile High City though is going to be competing anytime soon, especially with having the Dodgers and the Padres. Well, the Padres, especially with how stacked they are. I don't think the Colorado Rockies will be competing for a while. They could surprise us, you never know, because you also hear rumors that the Diamondbacks have a lot of brewing prospects as well. So they could start, making the rise in 2023 too. We'll have to wait and see. Then we have another rebuilding team, the Kansas City Royals, adding some depth. First, they signed outfielder and designated hitter Franmil Reyes to a minor league deal. And of course, it's just shocking because he just had a horrible 2022. Because between 2018 and 2019, he was a power surge with the Padres and Indians, hitting 92 home runs in 529 games. But then 2022, he just got worse. And then he was claimed by the Cubs off waivers, but the latter team cut him from their roster at the end of the season, finished the year hitting just .221 with only 14 homers. Of course, the Royals, who have been in a rebuilding stage for a while, could benefit from having a bat like Reyes in their lineup just to, help out a little bit there as well, although they're stacked with some younger talent. Okay, minor leaguers as well. Some people who are just getting started, like Bobby Witt Jr. and a few others. But Franmil could hopefully make a contribute if he can get back on track and shake off the rough 2022 season. And then another veteran that they signed to a minor league deal is former Red Sox Jackie Bradley Jr., who, of course, his defense will definitely be stellar. His offense, of course, had been less consistent, though, as well, as he once had a strong hitting streak, and then the rest of the season was just terrible, and he just teetered off. So, again, they did trade away Michael A. Taylor to the Twins, and, of course, they seem to open up some spot for some other minor leaguers, but they could have Jackie Bradley Jr. in there just to help, push those younger talents. So, another one, again, not to sleep on completely, but, he is starting to get up there. Oh, boy. 2 more left. The Tigers now taking a chance on Trevor Rosenthal, who had bounced around with a lot of teams on deals this past season. Again, I forgot he even still played. But he has not played since 2020 with the Royals and Padres, who had a 1.90 ERA in 22 thirds of an innings. Of course, he's had injuries, though, since that have hampered him. We all know Rosenthal's best days, though, was when he was closer for the Cardinals. And he was at his best between 2012 and 2015. But, of course, injuries since have impacted his career. I mean, if he can get healthy again, he could be in a nice position for the Tigers, but it's all up in the air, especially when you have 2 years where you couldn't pitch and it just teetered off for you. But again, you never know. We'll see if he feels good, gets healthy, hope he has a good spring, and maybe we'll see him on the mound soon. And then finally, the White Sox signed Elvis Andrus on a 1-year deal for $3 million. He will return to the south side of Chicago after he hit .271 in 491 plate appearances for the White Sox last season. He was released by the Athletics in August, and the Sox inked him to replace Tim Anderson, who missed time due to a torn hand ligament. But of course, Andrus will probably be used as more so of a second baseman, originally, of course, a shortstop. This is the first position change he's had in his 14-year career, but I think he will probably adjust pretty well. He's a nice little spark plug to add into their lineup. Again, the American League Central is still, to me, probably the weakest division out there, so could help the Cubs. As again, they have a lot of talent, well, mostly in the offense, but they just got to get consistent. They've been like this, average, the solid team were like hovering around 500. Give them a little more of a bone to compete a little more and to, get there. I mean, I believe they could do with just a couple little more pieces to the puzzle, but we will see. But guys, that is my brief thoughts on a ton of MLB signings that have happened recently. What are you guys' thoughts on these? Most of these were minor league deals and 1-year deals. And, hope you guys enjoy baseball season. Hope you guys enjoy the World Baseball Classic. And as you file out, guys, make sure to always slap a like on the video. Subscribe more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter at the Club of the Man 1993. Also, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at the Club of the Man 1993. I hope I'll have this video uploaded tomorrow and my WrestleMania match card hopefully finished tomorrow as well before Raw. And we'll be able to just roll from there and have a blast. All right, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you all later. You all have a great rest of your night. Stay safe out there. And as always, remember, guys, in order to be superior, to be the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself.